Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Andy Nguyen, and we're going to talk about keyboards today. The Cycle 7 was the keyboard that really turned the tide for me as to what was possible with budget keyboards. The fit and finish, modern mounting styles, and screwless case assembly, and a banger sound without having to stuff it with foams, and a stupid low price? Count me in. The Cycle 8 here is the successor and a more normal layout. The Cycle 7 didn't have an F-row, so it was kind of weird. F-row-less, 10 keyless. Here is more normal keyboard. We have all the keys that you'll ever want. The name of the game is value here. We want a good sounding keyboard that looks clean and is affordable. We have here a TKL that has a clean aesthetic while still having a bit of flair. And a little bit more flair and personality than say a GMK F18X, visually at least. Aesthetically, we have a sharp side profile with some curves in the form of ridges. No sharp edges here, clean fillets all around. Moving to the back of the board, fingerprinted. This is real. I'm not cleaning it before the video. Here we have a stainless steel weight on the back. Part of it's brushed and part of it's polished with a nice curve. Mixed material weight is not something I've seen before, and I'm all for it. It looks pretty sick. Beyond that, there are plenty of other weight options to fit your aesthetic. So in the original IC for the Cycle 8, this is what I saw when they reached out to me. I see these titanium alloy weights that are showcased front and center for the Cycle 8, and they look really good. They look color matched to the cases themselves, and it's a really nice, unique option without having to go through patina through someone else. And if you don't know what patina is like heat treatment and chemical treatment to make weights have these kind of fluorescent colors and make it look more unique. But patina by itself in its nature is not going to be consistent. So these prototypes are going to look one way and the production run may look different. And unfortunately, the customers from the China group buy did get different looking weights. This does not really look like what was advertised with the prototypes prior to group buy. Unfortunately, that's just what happened. And even in this thread, it seems that some of the finishes were like smudging off, and that's just not great. TKD's statement regarding this apparently was that the color differences are within spec and their QC standards, which part of me does agree with because it's gonna be different every single time. It shouldn't be smudging off though. One of the customers here said that their weight was smudging off, which is not great. That's really bad QC, but I'm sure for the international group buy, this won't happen because they're removing this option. It seems like a bit of a manufacturing nightmare for them, so they're gonna skip all that. So if you look at the Keycaps thread, they're no longer showcasing that titanium alloy. They actually removed it completely. So now we have just the PVD brush weights. And they're going to be much cleaner. My unit didn't have any smudging or anything like that, and I actually prefer this look over the kind of titanium alloy that looks to be heat treated. So there you go. It's not really a through weight, it's an internal weight and an external weight. There's actually a few layers here. Inside there's an aluminum plate with foam underneath, and you can buy an additional stainless steel internal weight. Or you can run the batteries. It's fully configurable, a lot of options, but the base price does not include the extra 340 gram additional weight. Just wanted to let you know. Overall, this is a very solid looking keyboard at any budget. The LED indicator above the arrow keys right here, I'm not sure I'm 100% in love with the steps down, but I do like having some kind of visual flair there, especially if it's RGB. I prefer the F12 aesthetic, so stops right there. Instead of having one key, four key, four key, four key, and another key, it compresses the F row a little bit. I never use F13 anyway, it's kind of like an artisan holder. With the board having a front height of only 17.5 millimeters and a typing degree angle of 8, it's extremely comfortable. One of the main things that made the Cycle 7 attractive was the easy assembly system. That is also here in the Cycle 8, and it works just as well. And it's really nice if you're changing the build a lot, changing the mounting styles a lot, because it does come with two mounting styles, the gasket bean and the O-ring. And you don't have to worry about any screws. I literally already lost screws building this twice. And that's because sometimes I take out builds because I don't have that many switches. So I need to take the switches out, and then I just kind of leave the board there. And yeah, that's a personal problem, but less screws the better for me. The cycle boards also sound good because there's an integrated little force brake nub that reduces the metal on metal contact. That means you don't have to use any tape to reduce ping. Like I mentioned, the mounting options are O-ring and the bean gasket. I honestly don't hear too much of a difference with the mounting styles, but here you go. I prefer the bean mounting style because it's much softer, so the difference is in the type feel. With the gasket bean, I can press it down and I can actually bottom out if I really force it. With the O-ring mount, with O-rings all across the board, it's actually pretty stiff. I have to put in twice as much force to bottom out. So that's the difference between the two. Although it's an O-ring mount, don't expect it to be like a unicorn. It's not a drop-in O-ring, it's different. Okay, it's just using that material as the isolation. This is why, although the F18X also uses an O-ring, it's not going to sound like a unicorn, nor does an O-ring mounting a top mount board sound like a unicorn. Drop-in friction O-ring is very different. Treat every board differently. You don't gotta 1v1 every board that exists. The PCB is 1.6 millimeters non-flex cut, and the plate is also non-flex cut. So we're getting good sound here. We finally see like the ideal sounding configurations, which is no flex cuts, full thickness of the PCB at 1.6 millimeters. The keyboard itself has the tri-mode PCB option, but if you opt not to use that, you can actually add more weight like I did in this board, 340 grams. I'll say you do not need the extra internal adder weights, but it does make it feel heavy enough for my arm to get sore right here. For the brass internal weight, Black Simon tested it and said it was a good add. Check out his coverage. As for me, I'd rather try to stay budget with this keyboard because it's a stellar price already. With the board design, I did not find that the sound was lacking at all. I built it with factory lubed BSUN Raws soldered into the PC plate. And of course, long poles, ones like BSUN Raws, are gonna sound good in most builds. However, I think a PC plate without foams is a pretty tough sound scenario, especially with factory lube switches. I do hear a little bit of weakness in here, but that's due to the fact that it's coming from the switches and the switches aren't hand lubed, so a little bit of like sound in the leaf and the spring that would be resolved if you hand lube the spring and the leaf yourself. I also want to give a shout out to Scooped Bar, who did some coverage on a coated Cycle 8, and they discovered that there was a little bit more ping and hollowness in their unit, and they actually had to use a little bit more material to force break the board. The little stabilizer pads I provided, they just used that and improved the sound by a lot. I didn't hear any issue with my coated and anode units in the Cycle 7. Maybe they changed something in the Cycle 8 because they did have some issues with coding for the Cycle 7, which is why the GB delayed a little bit, and they changed the process for the Cycle 8. They also changed the PCB manufacturer, so they're learning and trying to improve their product, so hopefully the Cycle 8 is a little less troublesome in fulfillment. But that specific unit, I don't know if it's an issue with the coating itself or an issue with that board specifically. That board's gonna get sent back to TKD and they're gonna research on it. This black anode board here though, even if I slam it, even if I use no desk mat, I can't really hear hollowness or ping. So that's just my experience right here. And the final deciding factor is, what is the price? It is $155 for an anodized case with a brushed and polished weight with a solder PCB. And that's the base configuration that I have here. And shipping is $20 to West Coast United States for me. So $155 plus $20, that's gonna be $175 ship for case, plate, PCB. This is unlike Geon where you have to buy PCBs separately just because it's like universal. Some people don't need a PCB, so it breaks apart that way. But $175 all in. Of course, you still gotta buy switches and keycaps, but that's a banger deal. You can pick your own customizations to add to that if you want. The other customizations do not make it wildly different. You can be totally happy with the base configuration in my opinion. And honestly, that's an amazing price for a TKL keyboard. When I started 4 years ago, the budget keyboard was the KBD8X Mark II. That's when it came in around 2019, 2020. And that was like $400 after shipping. KD Fans was the leader in budget keyboards back then, but Owllab and Mellatrix have come along, and things like the QK80 are $160 before shipping in March 2023. And every single month we see more and more products come out and the prices get lower and lower, which is good for the customer. Honestly, the sound is nice enough for me to be like, do I really need a top mount TKL or can I be happy with this? I will say, like, in the time I've had the KBD8X Mark III until now, I think this is a more compelling package that looks a little bit more visually pleasing and sounds better than the KBD8X Mark III. That's crazy because the KBD8X Mark III wasn't that long ago and things are just developing so fast. This is all great for the consumer. There are a ton of options, unlimited group buys, and just a lot of supply in the market in general. So if you wanted to get a KBD8X Mark III today, you could probably get it used for under retail. So it's like older by a little bit and you can save a bunch of money. This means if you miss a group buy, you're still likely to buy it from someone else selling their unit after the sale. No longer do you have to chase down one of 15 units or something and pay some exorbitant secondhand price due to lack of supply. This keyboard is definitely the one I was waiting for. The Cycle 7 was nice, but FRL TKL, it's a bit of a weird layout to be honest. TKL has all the function keys for me to use with work, and it's just a super inoffensive layout that gives you a lot of familiarity without having to layer anything. This is not ClickHack's first rodeo, and they have a lot of experience at filling, so this should be a solid keyboard. Of course, it's not going to be much if you're a collector, but it's a great package and another step in the right direction for the hobby. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next one. Peace.